what Gervonta Davis did to you, you dropped, you quit.
Oh, is this promo for the fight?
Pop, 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 pop. It's like, where did that punch come from?
In terms of pay-per-view numbers, I don't know if there's going to be another fight this year that tops this one.
You hit a man in the liver in the right spot, you take it to his knees.
Welcome to Run It Up. I'm your host, Master Tesfatsion. Pleased to be joined by the crew here, MMA legend Demetrious Johnson and the best basketball player out of Akron. Sorry, LeBron James. Rachel DeMita here joining us here. And this show is all about talking about sports. It doesn't matter if it's happening in boxing, MMA, basketball, soccer, you name it. We can even talk some darts if we want to. Anything that's going on in the sports world, we are here to talk about. But before we start this episode, there's always some controversial takes that everyone has. It's always spewing on social media. And I'm very curious. DJ, what is a take that you have that if you hear other people saying it, they probably, get the swords in your face? What's your hot take? Here's a controversial take that you got.
Dan Marino is the greatest football player that's ever lived. Reason why? Because he's got his own movie. In Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. Sparkle. Name another quarterback who's got a movie about him. I'll wait.
Sparkles.
What's Sparkles?
That's the Dolphins' name.
Oh.
I thought it was Ace Ventura Pet Detective.
It is Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Oh.
But the movie's basically about how to save Dan Marino from Finkel, who, missed, laces out, kicked. You never seen this movie before.
I've seen it, but it was ages ago, I guess.
Yeah.
It didn't move us to the same way where Dan Marino is the greatest quarterback of all time.
He is. Name another quarterback who's got a movie like that.
I don't know.
Exactly.
What is that one about Tom Brady's wives or whatever? Not the wives, but the old ladies.
The old ladies that are obsessed
yeah,
with
the
Tom
old
Brady.
ladies.
Is that on the same level?
Wait,
it's
what
not.
is it called?
I forgot what it's called too.
He was playing
Brady's
it for like 5
something.
minutes.
80 for Brady. 80 for Brady.
Never heard of it.
80-year-old women for Tom Brady.
Doesn't count. I never heard of it.
I mean, clearly Ace Ventura.
Fair, everyone's heard of Ace
Everyone knows
Ventura.
that. Everybody
Even
knows
if we
Dan
don't know
Marino.
what it's about. Should the WNBA lower the rims?
No.
So we'll hear my side later. You guys think about that. Should the WNBA lower the rims in turn to get more viewership on the WNBA, to help the women get paid more, and to make the sport more interesting? Because a lot of fans like to say that women's basketball, specifically in the WNBA, is not interesting enough, and they just want to see people bang out on each other. Shaq is one person who has said that he's a proponent of lowering the rims.
Yeah,
And Michael Porter Jr. recently came out on a
Michael
podcast.
Porter Jr.
Listen, it went viral. And a lot of people in the comments think that this is a wonderful idea.
My argument against that is that the argument always for men's college basketball against the NBA was always, this game is more fundamental. This is the pure basketball game compared to the NBA that's all about
college.
isolation. Yes.
Yeah.
And now what do we see from men's college basketball? It's the same exact thing as the NBA. Isolations. We're seeing the same exact thing that all the purists that college basketball fans loved about college basketball and March Madness. That's what their argument was, always against anti-NBA. And men's college basketball is completely because of AAU and all the other, all these other basketball coaches trying to get in their bags. That's all we're seeing now. Yeah. Where women's college basketball is literally exactly what everyone had been saying men's basketball was, but it had always been that. It had been always the purest form of basketball that we've seen. And now we're seeing it on display on a day-to-day basis. And it is a beautiful game. When you play it from the fundamental standpoint, when you're playing it the right way, when you're playing it unselfishly, when you're playing it with all 5 players being involved and active, that's why you see 13 million people watching Iowa and LSU, is because people at the end of the day still enjoy that. It has nothing to do with the dunks. I think that was just an easy way for people to just kind of hold that against women and just saying that you're not as athletic as men. But at the end of the day, instinctively, IQ-wise, and the way that they play it has been far greater than the way we've seen men play it.
You're going to change the rhythm for every girl out there. You're going to need a 15-year runway to see if it works, to see if it makes the game more exciting. You're going to have to revamp every basketball court out there. And I don't care what anybody says. A lot of girls are playing at the park. They're playing outside. They're playing in a church gym. They're playing in these places that don't have the money to just, okay, we're going to make 2 different rims now at all these different spots. You're giving guys another example to put down women if you make the rim at 8-9 feet. It's like, wow, great job. A 6'5" girl can dunk on an 8.5. Like, it's a disaster. We need to dead the conversation. I'm so over it. And we need to leave basketball how it is.
Leave it as it is.
I'll get off my soapbox now.
It's hard enough for them to get the 3-point line right, let alone the rims. I have a very local controversial take. I'm from Dallas.
Okay.
Welcome to Texas.
Yeah.
You just moved there recently. They call Houston Clutch City, and I think it's the most BS nickname that any city has because they got it for 2 years in which Michael Jordan was not playing there. Of course, that's when the Rockets won their 2 titles. And as Dallas, I think we're the best sports town in Texas. We have a huge rivalry. Texas, as I'm sure you're slowly figuring out, the San Antonio, Dallas, Houston beef is alive and well. They should not be called Clutch City. That is my take. All their teams stink. The only time they've been relevant was when the Astros was banging on trash cans, and outside of that, and I know they just got Stephon Diggs, but I don't care. Give me all the Dallas teams. They are not Clutch City at all.
As long as Dallas has the Cowboys, I don't know how it couldn't be the greatest sports city.
Of course. I mean, we got the Rangers now too. World Series defending World Series champs, and we got Luka, which I'm sure we'll touch on later on.
Do have Luka, yeah.
But for now,
and Kyrie.
And Kyrie, yes. Hella. But for now, let's touch on what is happening on 420 Barclays Center. You do not want to miss it. On DAZN, Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia. It's been, cooking 4 years in the making in terms of this fight? Probably even longer than that because they've known each other since they were 9 years old. Yep. They've had 6 fights in the amateur side, splitting those 3 apiece, even though I think there's only footage of one of those fights, which Haney did win. Garcia, starting off in his amateur career, was a bit more developed than Haney, but it feels like now Haney's kind of surpassed Garcia. When you see their 2 styles, what about? Because it feels like they're very contrasting styles that we have to look forward to.
Absolutely. Ryan Garcia, quick left hook. It's almost called the invisible hook. He hits people so fast, and I'm like, what did that person get hit with, right? And then you see him hit him right there, the equilibrium goes, and the person just falls down. You even watch the footage slow motion. Sometimes you don't even see it. It's like, where did that punch come from? But he's so quick with it. So I would give Ryan Garcia the speed advantage, right? He definitely has the speed advantage. But when you look at Ryan Garcia's only loss in boxing at the professional level, he gets frustrated. When he fought Gervonta Davis, one of the best boxers in the world, he frustrated Ryan Garcia, and Ryan Garcia made a lot of mistakes. I think Haney is going to take the same game plan that Gervonta Davis did. Now, granted, Gervonta Davis and Haney are 2 different body types, 2 different skill sets, right? But we know that Ryan Garcia, in the mental space, and he makes mistakes when he gets frustrated. If Haney can frustrate him, we can see Haney take it to him. Now, what does Haney have that I like is that he's very disciplined. He's very long, rangy. He sticks to the game plan, and he's very strong fundamentals as well.
I feel like boxing and combat sports in general are one of the only sports where I feel like mentality is almost like 50-50 or maybe more important than your actual skill set, your physicality, because you are head to head with someone fighting for your life, essentially.
Yeah.
So how is somebody able to go into a ring when they're not all there? Do you know what I like? And I don't even mean that sounded kind of crazy, but like when you're not locked in.
No,
you know what I mean?
It's these guys have been doing this forever since they were kids, right? And it's all about the people they have surrounding them. This is all they know, especially Garcia. It's all he knows. Same thing with Haney. It's all these guys know. So who knows what's going on in Garcia's camp? And for him, for me, I don't like what I see with the headspace because what happens if he loses, right? He loses. What is that going to do to him mentally, right? That's the biggest thing that I worry about him going to this fight. And when it comes to combat sports, it's 75% mental, 25% physical, right? Because your mind can do things that your body doesn't want to do. Right? Like your body will give out, but if you keep your mind strong, your body will do what your mind says. And that's like the rule of thumb that we use in mixed martial arts and wrestling. It's like it's 75% mental, and then the rest is physical. So that's the biggest thing I just don't like when I'm looking at when I watch the whole bill. Even I watch the the sit down with Haney and Garcia. I'm sitting there, you see Ryan Garcia doing it. I'm like,
Hey, like I know we get friendly, but like I know what's underneath that.
He's delusional. I don't know what he's talking about.
what are you doing? Like, talk and say stuff. And it's always this mental warfare going back and forth with those guys. But that's what boxing is, right? Like they do this mental warfare. You can't rehydrate it. The rehydration clause. Just so many different little things, small little jabs that they try to throw at each other to try to get them off their A game. So
when you weren't in the right headspace, what did you do to lock yourself back in?
To be honest with you, I've always been in the right headspace because my circle's small. I don't let people in and people don't get out, right? And that's what I think that's made me successful in all my fights. You know, the only time I lie, the only time I wasn't
there
in the
it
right.
is.
Well, the only,
we're human, so
Yeah,
it has to happen.
Absolutely. The only time I was in the right headspace was when I was sick. You know, I got water poison. It's basically where you drink way
Water
too much
poison?
water poison. So mixed martial arts, we cut a lot of weight, right? And there is no rehydration clause. So I can cut, you know, I walk around when I was competing 145 and I fought at 125. And I was taking a flight over to Montreal. And before I get on the flight, there's no food. You can't have your diaper on there. So I was drinking 2 gallons of water every single day for 2 weeks to water load my body so I can cut, 60 pounds of water. Because a gallon of water is 8 pounds. 2 gallons, 16 pounds. So I would do that before I jumped on the flight. I hammered like 1.5 gallons before I jumped on the flight. And I didn't eat any of this, the peanuts. I had nothing. So I was just sitting there full of water, not eating anything, get to a hotel, threw up, faucet, on the other end, and I was like, I don't want to fight, man. And next thing you know, the next day, my coach was like, okay, we're not going to train. Just try to eat something. Try to eat, threw it up. I was like, dude, I can't. I was like, I don't know what we're going to do. Flew out Monday, Tuesday, 4 days before the fight. And so I'm like, okay, well, at least I'm light. I can cut the weight. So I ended up cutting the weight and I ended up fighting. And I remember in the second round, he took me down. And I was like, I don't want to be here right now. But we rallied. We ended up getting the submission at the very last second of the fight and made a record, but I had to lock back in. It's just so hard to do it.
But how, when you tell yourself, I don't want to be here, and this dude is literally
Well,
got you folded up like a pretzel.
Yeah,
like,
I ain't got no choice. I ain't got no choice. I was like, and for me, in mixed martial arts, it's how I make my money, right? That happened in the fight, right? You look at Garcia through his whole camp. Is he there? Right? And
he keeps saying he is.
He keeps saying he is, right? And so we'll find out when they lock horns. But for me, when I've seen all of the build up to it, I'm like, this man, I mean, he's put on a good front, but I've been there before, right? Not in that headspace, but I know what it's like getting ready for a fight. I've done it for 18 years straight. And you got to make sure everybody around you is there to see the best for you. And sometimes I don't think that's what he's got going on in his camp. Not like I'm living in his camp, but as a fan and as a spectator, when I watch all the footage and the film and, the DAZN sit down, that's what I'm seeing. I'm like, this man, he ain't ready for this.
Like, you weren't good in the beginning, remember? Like, nobody took you serious. They're like, yo, Devin's easy work. And then we win, and then I wasn't even worried about it.
And then I started beating the
I was beating everybody.
Beating you.
Nah,
beating the out of you.
No, you started off with somebody else, and you beat that guy.
You watch the DAZN sit down too, right? Do you mentally, when you see that stuff, like, did you see someone there? Or what did you take away from it?
It's so hard to tell for me also being a casual fan of the sport. I don't maybe know the intricacies, but I do like watching a good fight. I know there's so much promotion going into it that I think other people are sometimes wondering, like, oh, is this promo for the fight?
Yeah.
That's real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so even to me, it was like
That's cap.
He gave me an 8 count when we were little.
two little kids in a sense, kind of argue,
I saw the
like
same thing.
arguing with
Yeah, I
one
saw the same
another.
thing.
That's the problem. It's like, you guys are grown men.
Yeah.
22, 25. Stop acting like you just wiped your ass for the first time. Sit there, have a conversation like, hey, if he was like, dude, I'm going to destroy you. We're 3-3. Okay, I'm a grown ass man now. What Gervonta Davis did to you, you tap out, you dropped, you quit. Let's be honest,
That's
you
a
quit. You
huge
quit in
issue
that,
right now. Huge
you quit
conversation in
that
the
fight,
box.
right? I was
If he
like,
quit or not.
What do you think? What do you think is going to happen when you get in there with me? What is this, right?
And it's that sit down. I had the same question too as I was watching that because as you talked about, it did look like two kids, but it almost looked like siblings because they've known each other for that long. Where you can just find ways to just needle your sibling in ways that it doesn't even make sense to anyone else, but you can find short sentences here or there to just get them off of their emotional edge. So that's gonna be the interesting part once they finally get in the ring.
Oh,
the talking, the jarring that's gonna be going on. Because we know Ryan Garcia's done that, and it's almost costed him in some fights.
Absolutely.
In terms of his arrogance and his cockiness that he can have, and how does he try to play that to try and get Haney off of his edge? Because we know how defensive Haney can be, and you're gonna have to try and find those openings. And is that through? Going back to when they were 10 and 11 years old and finding that little edge that I saw in that video that just was these are two kids that, yes, they have evolved into young adults, but when for some reason these two find each other in the same room, they go back to that little kid version of themselves, and we're all seeing it come out right now.
Yeah.
So we talked about Garcia's invisible left that he has.
Yep.
Will he even have a chance to hit Haney? Because when I see Haney, it's very clear. We've had a lot of Floyd Mayweather clones that we've seen come out that have been very influenced by one of the greatest boxers of all time.
Yep.
And Haney feels like he's probably the best version that we've seen of a Floyd clone in terms of defensive tactics. How will Garcia try to break that and try to find that left hook?
Yeah, so let's take a good look at Ryan Garcia right now. You know, I give Ryan Garcia the speed advantage, like we've been talking about, that invisible left hook that he likes to throw, pop. The biggest thing is, can Ryan Garcia make adjustments, right? At the highest level, right? Of course he's gonna be able to make adjustments to guys who aren't on that superstar level, like we were talking about Gervonta Davis, Haney, and then Lomachenko. Can he make those adjustments? That's where I think Garcia is going to have the biggest trouble. If he can't make those adjustments to a guy like Haney, who's tactically very defensive, very good with his jab, stays behind, he's very good with his footwork, and Haney has been working with the same coach his whole entire life, which is his father, right? So they already have a bond there that can't be broken, can't be shaken. His son, Haney, trusts his dad. So if his dad says, "Hey, we need to make small adjustments in this fight," right? And we've seen Haney do this before when he fought Lomachenko. Lomachenko, great footwork, very rhythm-based fighter. Pop, 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 pop. He was able to make those adjustments in the fight where when you look at Garcia, he wasn't able to make those adjustments against a high-level guy like Gervonta Davis. He was just trying to overwhelm him. Instead of, okay, I'm no longer athlete. I'm going to force Gervonta Davis to open up. You get behind my jab, force him to open up by frustrating him to come across the void. But he didn't do that. He was like, I'm just going to go box. And he started boxing, and that's when he got dropped, and that's when that body shot landed. When we watch Haney, when he fought Lomachenko, he was fighting somebody who was longer, who was just as good footwork-wise, throwing good jabs, doing good combinations. You saw Haney take a step back. Okay, I'm the bigger guy. I got to start using my jab. I got to make him overextend. So I think you're going to look to see Haney make good adjustments against Garcia, and I believe that's going to be a difference in this fight. That's the X factor. Who's going to make the adjustment?
Okay, last thing. If you were in camp with both of these guys, what is one thing that you would have each of them focus on with Garcia and Haney?
Garcia, not getting frustrated. Haney, frustrating Garcia. Very simple. Because
So that's the strategy.
That'll be the strategy, right? Because you want to look at people's habits, their tendencies. They both have great jabs. They both have good left hooks. They both have great footwork. But one of the things that you can, when I look at both those guys, I'm like, oh, he gets frustrated. We're going to frustrate him. How? Good footwork, good distance. Make him think he can hit me. Oh, you can hit me. Hit him when I think he can't be hit. Vice versa for Haney. It's like, hey, we're just going to keep, I'll be Haney's. For Garcia, hey, we got to make sure that we always keep in Haney guessing. Don't let him know that we're getting frustrated. That's how I would approach it.
All right, now it's time for fact or cap.
He's gearing up for it.
Yeah, about to ask you a couple questions here, and everybody feel free to jump in when you want to. Is Ryan Garcia carrying this promo? I'm going to say that's fact. I think from the social media standpoint, from the interest standpoint, I think there's always been a lot more eyeballs on Ryan Garcia.
He's hitting pop culture
Yeah.
vlogs. People
Exactly.
have never watched boxing
Yeah.
before, so I would say for sure.
Yes, I agree with you. Fact.
Yeah, I think that's without question a fact.
Yeah.
All right, so we all agree. Ryan Garcia is carrying this. That is a fact. Fact or cap? This is a must-win for Ryan Garcia. Fact or cap?
Cap.
Oh, cap.
Man.
I don't think it's. I think it's more of a must-win for Haney. No.
You know, it's very interesting when you say it like that. I think it's I think Garcia has to win this.
I think more so for his reputation, for Haney's reputation. Because Garcia has every excuse from what we've seen leading up to it that if he loses, well, maybe he wasn't in the right space. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I mean, you look at
I would hope, I don't know him personally, and guys, none of us know what's going on. So hopefully, even if win or lose, we see a lot more from him. He's still a great boxer, but I don't think this is make or break in his career.
Yeah.
I think probably the biggest thing Ryan Garcia needs to shed from this, as you mentioned, people think from the Tank Davis fight, he quit.
Yes.
He took a knee, took a shot to the kidney. That's the biggest thing, is that he needs to show the toughness in the fight that I think a lot of people have expected from him that we did not see towards the tail end of that Tank.
Yep, absolutely. And I think as us being athletes, the one thing we never want to do is subconsciously think, I don't want to be here anymore, right? Like when you're in a court and if you're ever getting balled up and somebody keeps dunking on you or shooting on you, you don't want to be like, coach, take me out. I don't want to be here anymore, right?
Right.
That's the one thing he's got to prove to himself, that he was like, I can weather the storm. I don't want to quit again.
Let the record show I'm the least athletic person here of the three here we are. Athletes. TV show host. Fact or cap? Well, we talked about it earlier. Do Garcia and Haney really not like each other?
I think it's cap. I think they like each other. I mean, you spend that much time with each other for six fights prior to that. You know, I'm sure after this fight, they'll go have a beer, talk to each other, exchange numbers. They might go to the after party together.
Can I say I both think they're a little jealous of one another?
Yeah. I think there's some truth to that. Yeah.
So it can't be full hate, you know,
Yeah.
but I think they're both kind of
In what way are they jealous?
I think Haney kind of has this more of like a purist kind of mentality. And I think Garcia sees what an absolute, great boxer that he is. But then I think that Haney's like, oh, Garcia is getting all of this clout, praise. Everybody knows about him who doesn't even watch the sport.
Yep.
Even before this little kind of weird, he's an internet kid in a sense, So I just feel a little bit of that when they're throwing shots back and forth. Like they don't seem like the kind of shots that are trying to, hit him in the chest with. So
I think you're spot on with that.
Thank you.
I generally do. So you think it's cap? You think they do like each other? It's just jealousy that exists.
yeah, I don't think there's like pure hatred there. No.
I'm agree with that. I'm going with that.
Cool.
Is this the biggest fight of the year?
Ooh.
Still early in the year, but
In
this
what
has
regard?
This has been anticipated for a long time.
I'm
Let's
gonna
be
go
honest.
cap. I'm gonna go cap.
It's been anticipated for a long time.
Yeah, I'm gonna go cap. You have, Tyson Fury getting ready to fight Usyk. That's coming up. You also have Canelo Alvarez, who's about to fight as well. I do believe this is a big fight in this division. But I mean, Usyk versus Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury, one of the greatest boxers of our time right now. Taking on Usyk. Usyk has beat Anthony Joshua. A lighter guy going up to that division. The footwork he brings to the table, the movement, the combinations. So no disrespect to Haney and Garcia, but I don't think this. I'm gonna have to go cap with that one, baby.
He's going cap.
I think it's so hard to say what's the biggest fight because there's different audiences, there's different reasons why these fights so most watched, is that what we're going with?
Most watched, most anticipated. You can go. You want to be the purist. You can go best fight style. If you feel like pay-per-views is the measurement for this.
I think fact in a sense of from the casual fan side and because of how many people are just anticipating what's going to happen, maybe it will be one of the biggest.
You're hedging there.
I'm hedging, but we'll say cap. It could be the biggest.
I'm saying fact. I think it will be. Just off pay-per-views alone, the anticipation for this thing for years now, the storylines of this, as we talked about with sports, so much of it is the storylines and being able to see the narratives. There's so many clashing styles in the ring and even outside as you talk about the jealousy. I think it's going to draw every single Gen Z person is going to be locked in. Millennials going to be locked in. Of course, the old school people are just going to be yelling at a cloud, wondering what happened to their boxing. Because
What happened to the sport I love?
So I'm going to go fact. I think this will be, hopefully it lives up to the hype and everything that's going on leading up to the fight. But I would expect in terms of pay-per-view numbers, I don't know if there's going to be another fight this year that tops this one.
There we go.
Last one here. Haney or Garcia would knock out Jake Paul. Fact or cap?
Oh, that's fact. 1,000%. I mean, Jake Paul is really good at what he does. I can't knock him for doing what he's doing. He spot boxers. This is the problem with boxing, my personal opinion, is that they all pad their records, right? They pad their records, right? The last guy he just fought was a Golden Glove and blah, 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 blah. The gentleman was working oral rigs and he left boxing, right? It's not, that's not a high-level boxer.
That sounds like a story from like 1920 or something.
Exactly. Like in mixed martial arts, you fight the best in the division. That's what you do. You just don't, like when I was an amateur and when I got to the big leagues, I fought a guy who was like, I think he was Brad Pickett. And it was my third pro fight. And when we went to war, when you're looking at like how Jake Paul has done what he's done, it's been great. I'll give you a round of applause. But I want to see you fight someone who's 25, 26 years old, who has rhythm, who's gonna come there and fight and who has the same passion as you do. Don't find these guys that are doing Uber driving and he's working on oil rigs. You know, he's about to fight Mike Tyson, and that's amazing. I'm super happy for Mike Tyson too. But for me, as a purist in martial art, it's like I want to fight the best, right? I want to challenge myself. If Jake Paul and Haney and Garcia were to box, they should be able to knock him out. Not knock him out, but make him quit on the stool. Body shots, work the head, go to the body, hit the body, come back to the head, right hand down the pipe. Those are things that Jake Paul's not going to experience, right? He will when he meets somebody who's better than him and at the same age, but he's not going to meet that. He might meet it with Mike Tyson. I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out.
Uber driver Mike Tyson.
No.
That was disrespectful.
The podcaster Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Is that fact or cap?
Well, I think, I mean, what was it, that they could or
They could knock-
couldn't?
They would knock out Jake Paul.
Yeah, I think they could. Yeah, but I think on Jake's side, it's this weird thing that I go back and forth with too, because if I were Jake Paul, I don't know if I would be doing anything differently, because he came into the sport with an insane following and a massive fan base, and he has done a lot for the sport, maybe in like kind of weird way. When is that time that he crosses over into fighting somebody who might not be as box office as everybody else that he has been? Because he has been carrying all these fights until Tyson, I would say.
Yep.
Every single fight that's what everybody's coming to see.
Yep.
Love him or hate him.
Yep.
You know, you're coming to see him knock out a great, or you just want to see somebody knock out Jake Paul.
Yep.
I'm going to say cap because Jake Paul, he's got 60 pounds on him, right?
No, it doesn't matter.
I just, for me, perspective-wise, 60 pounds on him. Haney's not much of a knockout type of artist.
Yeah.
I mean, Garcia could catch him with a left.
Yeah.
I'll say cap.
You hit a man in the liver in the right spot, you take it to his knees easily.
Liver counseling. Yeah. Jake Paul is a businessman. He's a boxer as well, but he's a businessman.
Yes,
and
so
he does whatever is good for business.
Yes, and as an athlete, I have to remove my purist and my athletic ability and all that stuff. Like, hey, like when people ask me, what's your true opinion? I was like, do you want my business side of it or do you want my, my athlete side of it? Athlete side, I was like, it's but as a businessman, these two guys are smart as
Hey, sports is a business. At the end of the day, sports is a business, and Jake Paul's one of the best at it.
Yep.
What you got?
I got Haney.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna play. I think Haney. He's fought the better opponents. Lomachenko is one of the best to ever do it, I believe. And that fight with Haney and Lomachenko, hell of a fight.
Unbelievable.
I even thought Lomachenko won that fight. To be honest, because the way he was moving, how he was the smaller guy taking it to Haney, but Haney was making the small adjustments, and he was like, "Hey, you know what? We could run it back." It was just an off night. Right? And I think Garcia, I just don't like where he's at right now. And I think when he fights high-level athletes on this spectrum, there's always everybody's a professional athlete, right? Then there's a different level. And when he's been at that different level, from what I've seen in his career, he's gotten frustrated. And I think we're going to see the same thing when he fights Haney.
I think so too. But again, as you talk about that hook, that left hook,
Yeah, that left hook,
all it takes is one.
Yeah, all it takes is
all
one.
it takes is one from Garcia, and we've seen that. So
That's the cool thing about the sport, though.
Yeah.
It's like you have one mental slip, you're not ready for one little thing, and that's it.
Yep.
You don't get second chances
Nope.
like you do in basketball, football.
No, I missed that
It's
shot.
like-
It's okay.
Yeah.
I'll run it back.
run it back. Or run it up.
no matter how much somebody's favored, anybody
Anybody can win.
get caught slipping.
Anybody can win. And the biggest thing with that visible left hook, when we talk about it, it's typically he hits people who are shorter than him, right? When they're trying to get to him.
He's got a slight
A
edge.
slight
just
edge,
on the
right?
height. Yeah.
I don't see Haney coming across the distance like that. He catches people, right? He catches people in the exchange where he's a bop. Because Garcia has been dropped by people who are the same size, and he's like, where did that come from? It's like, yeah, because you're fighting somebody who's the same size as you. A lot of times you see that quick visible hook is people who are shorter, which I'm short, so I have to deal with that my whole entire career, so I've seen it.
We've talked about a lot about how women's sports continues to grow in this country. And I mean, as we talked about in basketball and how that's grown with the Caitlin Clark phenomenon that's going on in women's college basketball. But on the soccer side, it has been extraordinary to see the NWSL growing. We got a new team now with Bay FC. It's been phenomenal to see now. And also the salaries continue to grow in the space. It has been a pure joy of seeing the viewership, the audience, the crowd, the atmosphere, the environment growing in the NWSL and making it a global sport where they're able to bring in athletes from Africa and other athletes from Europe who are coming here to play and receiving multi-million-dollar deals for over $2 million that they're able to play professional sports. It's a beautiful sight, and there's so many great players that are in this league right now. I'm curious for you guys' thoughts in terms of how much you guys have been exposed to that and the thoughts in terms of just seeing women's sports continue to grow in this country.
I think the formula is the same. Women in sports started much later than the guys, and I think we forget that in a lot of sense when we're comparing men's and women's sports. And I think what continues to propel women, no matter what sport we're talking about, if we're talking about basketball, if we're talking about boxing, if we're talking about MMA, it's these superstars that bring light to the sport. Where I do think the women have had the upper hand is in FIBA, and with US, like the USA team has always been so much better than the men, which I think is really cool to see, and to see that trickle down into the women's space. Another place I've seen it is with, the Mahomes getting involved with their team in Kansas City. And we're seeing, new salaries come out for these women. Another thing that, I've talked about earlier is there's so much space now in social media and in the brand space and college with NIL for women to make money in other ways and make names for themselves in other ways. So I hope that these players, continue to do that. And I think we'll just see the sport continue to grow.
And we're seeing it they're getting Netflix documentaries done behind them, behind the scenes. We just saw the golden era of the U.S. women's national team, which unfortunately ended in a disappointment at the World Cup. But what they've done to just create and unlock an entire new era of women athletes to not only just believe, but also getting so much more opportunities to not just play the sport that they love, but also doing it and getting paid at a high level in ways in which, again, just as you mentioned, just decades ago, I'm sure when you were playing, it just to see some of these opportunities and some of these women getting it now, it's got to be crazy to fathom what that could have been like when you were playing, but also knowing that you help build the foundation for these kind of super situations to happen, whether it is in basketball, soccer, in MMA, et cetera, et cetera. It's beautiful to see, and it's beautiful to see that people are embracing it, people are watching it, and people want to be a part of it.
And right now, like she was hitting on is that, and you were too, it's in its infancy stage, right? It's just now starting to grow, and then give it, another 20 to 30 years to see the salaries are going to be a lot bigger, right? Because just like anything with, men's mixed martial arts, it didn't really go mainstream until 1993. That's not that long ago when you really look at it, right? It's like maybe 20, 30 years ago. And now with, all the women's sports, with mixed martial arts, boxing, WNBA, soccer, who knows what else is going to be coming up into the mainstream. So I think it's a good place. It's a good time for women athletes to be able to have the opportunity to make good money in the sport that they love to do.
Now, DJ, of course, we know MMA-wise, ain't too many people that can mess with you. But we saw a picture floating around the internet. I'm sure a lot of people have. The discrepancy. You were standing next to Shaq. Of course, we're all going to look short next to Shaq, but that was one that there's a reason why it went viral.
Yeah.
Could you take Shaq on?
Prime Shaq. What are we talking? Old Shaq or talking Prime Shaq?
I mean, pick and choose.
Man.
Either way.
You can't take Shaq. Come on. Hey, he's all those guys on TNT now are kind of
you can have
walking with
80-year-old
the
Shaq if you want to. I'm just which one do you want?
The thing is that Shaq is a specimen, right? He's big, he's strong, and I've competed against guys who are 250 pounds. And could I beat Shaq in like a hand-to-hand combat? That would be very hard, right? I would have to rely back on my jiu-jitsu and grappling to be able to take him down, pass his guard, and look to submit him, because it doesn't matter how big you are or how small, your brain always needs blood. So if I cut off his oxygen to his brain, he's gonna go to sleep.
So you pull Rey Mysterio on the Big Show? Is that the strategy?
Pretty much, yeah.
Jump on his back and just put him to sleep? Is that
Pretty
what
much.
you're trying to do?
And would it be hard? Absolutely. And he's gonna fight me back too. He's not gonna just let me do that to him, right? And you just never know, but I believe in myself. I believe in my skill set, and I think I can take Shaq.
How would you promo this fight? Prepping for it.
The final boss, taking on you, Shaq. Shaq Fu. That game was horrible. Actually, I actually enjoyed that game.
No.
Do you think you can beat me, Mighty? There's no send the contract. I'll be waiting for you, Shaq.
Yeah, let's go. Shaq, DJ, on DAZN. Can't wait. Cannot wait.
We can commentate it.
Oh, of course.
There you go. Perfect. Perfect. I can get him.
Do you think he has a shot?
I would always say you have a shot, yeah. But it would be tough, for sure.
Absolutely.
Just wingspan alone. And Shaq, but Shaq also is someone who fears no one.
Yes.
like you could put Shaq up against somebody who's twice as big as he is and he wouldn't back down. So I feel like that would make it a little bit tougher even in that sense.
And he's also trained mixed martial arts, so that's all.
Is he really?
He's done it before.
What hasn't he done?
Yeah,
honestly.
He's an
Yeah, you know what?
officer.
I'm
Doctor. And literally every commercial you see on television.
I love that. It sounds like you've kind of had this conversation in your head before. When you see tall, giant athletes like that, do you always kind of like,
I love it.
yeah?
Because I'm like, you ever seen a giraffe run? It's not like, for me.
Talking about Wemby. No, Wemby is so tall though. I've been with Shaq a bunch, and I also interviewed Wemby recently this past season. Literally the tallest person I've ever been around. Like I'm 5'8". I'll show you guys the photo after. It's insane.
Yeah.
Like if Shaq felt tall, Wemby feels he's not 7'4", he's 7'6".
If we had to compare his rookie season, Shaq's rookie season, 23.4 points, 13.9 rebounds per game, almost 2 assists per game, 3.5 blocks per game, 0.7 steals per game, shooting 56% from the floor. Wemby, 20.7 points per game, so about 3 points less. 10.4 points rebounds, so about 3 rebounds less. 3.5 assists more, 3.5 blocks, 1.3 steals, obviously very more significant. 46% from the floor, and he's also making 1.7 threes per game.
That's where I was gonna go. It's like it's totally different games. Shaq's era, he's been that big guy. He's big in the post.
He was an athletic monster. When he was with Orlando,
and
he
so
was
it's hard to
freak of nature.
compare because Shaq incredible rookie season, Wemby also incredible rookie season. Is it a Derrick Rose rookie season? No. The reason why we are still so excited is because his potential, his ceiling is so high, so much higher than so many guys, so much higher than someone who's 6'2" and doing amazing things. Like the ceiling is crazy for him. The stats also make it hard to tell, and also the 46% shooting versus 56% shooting. I would love to see Shaq's shot chart is probably all in the paint.
100%.
You know what I mean? We could talk about free throw percentage too. We don't want to go there. You know? Also, no shade to Shaq. He's on my starting 5 greatest players of all time. Like, fantastic basketball player, should be on the Mount Rushmore, whatever you want to call it. But I think we're just excited about Wemby's potential. And so I don't want to...
Give me Shaq's rookie year. Give me all of Shaq's Orlando years. I think that was just insane to just... if you get a chance, just watch the YouTube highlights of that. You will be...
I've seen him. He's
blown away and just like how athletic he was. Of course...
How big he was too. Yeah, exactly.
So I think rookie year, I'll give the nod to Shaq. Longevity-wise, I think Wemby... obviously, will have a better shot at having a much more...
He's also got to stay healthy, right? He's got to stay healthy over the years and growing
that's with anyone.
into that body, right? Because you see a lot of these guys, they grow big into that body at 19 years old. That wear and tear on the body of him running, he had the heart pumping, all that blood around, it's like, that's going to pay dividends over the years. So is he going to be able to stay in the league for that long? Right?
Can I throw in a random,
absolutely
super funny thing that I found out? So I was doing Spurs Media Day, and so I was interviewing all the players. One of my questions for all of his teammates were, tell me, a fun fact about Wemby that we might not know. About half of them were talking about his flexibility in some sort. Like the guy, you saw the
I've
clip.
seen the yoga videos and stuff.
Yeah, where he's like, he
downward dog.
No, like splits.
Oh God.
Yes.
Wow.
People describe him as an alien, of course. That's like the nickname everyone.
Yeah.
I think he's more like an AI bot because this is the worst version we're ever going to see of him. In the same way that like ChatGPT, they keep saying this is the worst version of ChatGPT we're ever going to see. This is the worst version of Wemby we're ever going to see.
Yeah.
He's just going to keep improving as the players get around him, as he gets more comfortable in the league. As you said, he gets that killer instinct. Like he adds on weight and adds on build to his frame, as we've seen from Giannis as well, who had that same slender frame. This is literally going to be the worst version, and we're already terrified.
I think the NBA needs new superstars, and I think the NBA needs new rivalries. And I think, so here's the thing, LeBron talked about it recently. He says, I don't have that much time left. For the last 20 years of us watching the NBA, LeBron has been the face of the league. Whether you want to hate on him, discredit him, whatever, that has been the face of the NBA. Now, Steph has also come up there and changed the way that basketball is played by moving the game so much further outside of the three-point line and shifted the whole landscape. We had the Warriors dynasty. We had that Warriors versus Cavs moment. We had the big three in Miami. Like, we start to forget about all of these massive moments in recent NBA history that we're not going to have shortly. So I'm always wondering who is going to be that next round of superstars. I think we need Wemby. I think we need Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think we need Jayson Tatum to step up. I think Giannis is there, even though he's like maybe a little older than these guys. We need Luka. We need the Joker. But the problem that I may be seeing with some of these guys is they don't have that Mamba mentality. They don't have that killer instinct that we saw in LeBron, in Kobe, in Mike, in Magic, in Shaq.
I do find the league to be in a great space right now due to the simple fact I think there are so many different types of players that exist that we're seeing the 7-footer that can shoot outside. We're seeing a 6'8" point guard in Luka that can do some things like an underhand shot from the outside of the arc that just like it's absolutely insane to try and wrap our heads around. And it's also allowing, which I think is ultimately always the goal of a league, a lot of parity. And so you're having teams like Minnesota, Oklahoma City, Milwaukee, a lot of these small market teams that have a legitimate shot at winning the title. So as we talk about the playoffs here, I'm super excited for it. Finals wise, who you got coming out of the East? Who you got coming out of the West? I know the Celtics have been dominating the East. But
They have to. At this point, they have to.
Do you trust them though?
This is my last chance. Last chance, you. But this is what I'm talking about. We need Jayson Tatum. And also a big market team like the Celtics, I think will help the league, especially when it's LeBron and Steph and all these final years. So they're coming out of the East. And
the West is crazy.
The West is crazy, but I would love to see Denver back.
Oh.
I don't think OKC has it yet.
Yeah. So in the Celtics Nuggets finals,
I think that would be so good for the league.
who would win?
Who would win? Give me Boston.
Ooh,
It's their time
you're
to
all
shine.
in.
It's now or never.
Who you got in the East?
Let's go Miami Heat.
No chance.
What? Let's go Miami
take
Heat.
it.
Okay. Let's go Miami Heat and we'll go Lakers. That's what's gonna happen. Okay, you heard it here from me, Mighty.
Wild.
Heat Lakers?
Yep.
Why?
If that happened though, it would be the most watched ever. Because they would make no sense.
If it happens, they'll be playing this on social media for decades.
Yeah.
This is how much you guys know I don't know anything about basketball.
It's fine.
What'd you pick then?
I'll pick LA Lakers. The
Lakers?
Lakers, yeah.
You want LeBron to win one more?
Yeah, I think so. Why not? He's got Space Jam. He's got his own movie.
I thought mine was going to be crazy. I'm a diehard Mavs fan, obviously, and I love the way they're playing right now. They're rolling. Great trades that they made at the deadline. Nobody wants to face us,
Yeah.
but I think I agree with-
Matchups are tough when it gets to Denver.
It is.
though.
That's
the
the
thing,
team that scares
yeah.
me just a little bit. I'm not scared of anyone else.
That would be a fun conference finals though, for
I'm
sure. That
praying
would be
that the bracket
insane.
can line up where
Yeah.
we can get that. And as delusional as I want to be and pick the Mavs, I probably would go Nuggets. I'd be so happy with the Western Conference Finals run. On the East, I don't know. I don't trust the Celtics at all. I just that is not the pick I'm going to make. And I want to pick the Bucks because I really do like Giannis and Dame, but defensively there's a lot of questions there. And there's a side of me that like the Heat, as crazy as it sounds, Jimmy Butler's gonna like.
Yeah, but
he's
they
gonna
can never finish. I've lost like that. That's where my hope ends.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? You asked like, do you trust them? No.
I hate to again, but in default, just follow you. I probably would go Nuggets, Celtics, but I think the Nuggets probably have the best chance of repeating here. So I'm gonna go with the Nuggets to win the title. Speaking of the Celtics, Jayson Tatum apparently has some gummy bears.
Oh.
Yes. First time I'm hearing of this, and thankfully our crew was able to grab some for us. They're called Small Winds, plant-based, all natural.
Oh, this is perfect. Do you guys know I was vegan?
No clue. Now we know.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Look at that.
The telepathy from the crew here and Rachel. There's a couple flavors here: peach, strawberry, green apple, watermelon, lime. I don't know why one is.
Oh, sour pack and
One's sour.
classic.
Oh,
pack.
sour.
okay. That's what I was trying to figure out. Which one's the sour one?
I'll try the sour one. It's orange.
The orange one? All right, should we all try the sour one first then?
Yeah, it's too sour.
Sure.
Let's try the sour one. We'll see how these things taste.
ASMR.
Gummies are very hard to nail, for being quite honest, because.
Really? Why are you like what is it? Haribo,
Oh,
whatever.
I love those things. I'm not gonna lie. Those things are very addictive. But trying to get a good gummy is very, very difficult in texture. I think this one's the peach one though.
Well, because if they're plant based, then they won't have gelatin.
But somehow they got five grams of sugar.
That was pretty good.
These are good. Mm-hmm. These are actually good.
What flavor did I just eat? Watermelon?
I think I had peach. I like these. Mm-hmm. Surprisingly.
I'm gonna take this back home for the children.
They're very chewy.
Yeah, they're very
sticky, very
yeah.
sticky.
They're,
But not in a bad way.
that's what you expect from a gummy.
It's not like a Sour Patch Kid where those are kind of tough. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I love Sour Patch Kids, though.
Is that your one? Is that your Sour Patch Kids? That's your kryptonite?
They're really good. They're kind of like a mix of a fruit snack
Yes.
and candy.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Are you much of a candy guy?
I am a pastry guy, but I have kids, and I'm always trying to find a better choice for those guys to eat, especially when I look at it.
These really are so good.
Yeah.
I'm going to give them a 9 out of 10.
I would give it a rating of 9 out of 10. Like, this is something I would get to my kids, put in a lunchbox.
Considering I have 3 more left, I probably would give it a 9.5 out of 10. Deuce, you got one here, bro.
All right, these are
Keep
really
it going.
good. Very
Really
into
good.
them.
Yo, this was dope. We had a good time.
So
We had
fun.
a lot of fun.
Good time.
For sure. Appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully you guys had a good time. And see you next time. We're out. Later.